Did you know that there's a town in Kentucky that has a dog for a mayor? Or that the state has the largest cave system on Earth? And one of their native sons' last wish was to have his ashes shot out of a cannon during a fireworks show? Today we're looking at those and other Kentucky oddities in our first episode of People, Places, and Things. Let's take a look. Hunter S. Thompson, Louisville's Gonzo Goblin, 1937 to 2005. Hunter S. Thompson was born in Louisville in 1937, and he went on to become one of the strangest, loudest, most chemically seasoned writers America's ever produced. He created what is called gonzo journalism, where a reporter doesn't just cover the story, he becomes part of the circus and occasionally sets the tent on fire. Case in point, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. His Kentucky Derby article, titled "The Kentucky Derby is Decadent and Depraved," helped define his style and made Louisville part of his legend. Kentucky is known for polite bourbon culture, fancy hats, and horse racing. Then suddenly out walks Hunter S. Thompson, looking like journalism got bit by a rabid raccoon. I've read so many of his essays, articles, and books that I think he's the most read author that I've read the most of, I should say. Even articles about antics that involved him, but other people wrote them, I've read those. Like in 1974, when Rolling Stone sent him to cover the important Rumble in the Jungle fight between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman, he didn't come up with a story because he spent the entire fight drunk at the hotel's pool. That's not the first time one of his stories that he was working on was derailed by some form of chemical. One of Thompson's last wishes was to have his ashes shot out of a cannon during a fireworks show, set to the song Spirit in the Sky from the 1970s or whatever. It was a star-studded event, oddly enough, and it was funded by Johnny Depp. The private crowd of around 250 to 280 people included Johnny Depp, Jack Nicholson, Bill Murray, Sean Penn, John Cusack, Benicio del Toro, Lyle Lovett, and Senators John Kerry and George McGovern. Yeah, it was star-studded. There was a bunch of other people, but those are the main ones. If Hunter S. Thompson is what your state has to offer, well, I think that's a blessing and a curse all at the same time. It just depends on what you're into. I think it's great. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet of Hopkinsville, 1877 to 1945. Edgar Cayce was born near Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and became famous as a self-proclaimed psychic and faith healer. He was called the Sleeping Prophet because he reportedly gave readings while in a trance-like sleep. So he'd fall asleep and supposedly spirits or whatever would come out, and whatever was coming out of his mouth while he was sleeping was your, psychic reading. Now that's already strange enough, but then he got into Atlantis. Past lives, prophecies, long-distance healing, and predictions about New York and California being wiped out, like falling into the ocean or something like that. This guy had a real hard-on for Atlantis, though. He described Atlantis as a highly advanced, technologically complex global civilization that ultimately destroyed itself through the misuse of its own power. Now, all his hundreds of trance readings kind of give a cautionary tale about this mythological lost continent. He described Atlantis as having these submarines that went in the water, they flew, and they even went into space. This was apparently back about 5,000 years ago or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, he was all into Atlantis, and he sold it to anyone that would listen. Tell him all about it. Wrote books, everything. People wrote books about his psychic readings, and they put it all together like they're, investigating a crime. And so they take little things from this trance, they put all together and, decipher what he was. It's just weird. But he's from Kentucky. Kentucky gave us American bourbon, bluegrass, fried chicken, and a man who took psychic tech support calls while unconscious. Britannica identifies Cayce as an American faith healer and psychic born near Hopkinsville in 1877. This guy was a real piece of work, though. He even stated that the Great Pyramid of Giza was constructed by Atlantean refugees around 10,000 BC, rather than the traditional pharaohs. Pharaohs had nothing to do with it. It's all a bunch of people from Atlantis. He claimed the structure was not a tomb, but an advanced spiritual initiation center, and that the undiscovered Hall of Records holding ancient Atlantean history lies hidden beneath the Sphinx. Yes, because that's where you're going to hide it. Giant Sphinx in the middle of the desert that's not going to draw any attention whatsoever. I mean, you see something like that in the middle of the desert for the first time, You gotta know what's going on. You're just gonna research it. I wouldn't put anything under there if I was trying to hide it. I go about 200 miles out in the middle of the desert and bury it there. Floyd Collins, the cave explorer who became a media circus, 1887 to 1925. Floyd Collins was a Kentucky cave explorer who got trapped in a cave in 1925. His rescue attempt became a national media event, and the whole thing turned into one of the most haunting stories in Kentucky history. Now, this was huge at the time. If TMZ was around, they would have been all over this. I mean, unless, of course, if some Lego nonsense kicked off, then they'd be all over that. If you haven't read anything or watched anything on YouTube about bricks and minifigs, it's a rabbit hole you should go down. It is totally worth it. It's wild. Not as wild as a dude stuck in a cave, but it's wild. Anyway, he was stuck underground while reporters, rescuers, spectators, and curiosity seekers gathered above like America had invented disaster tourism overnight. During the rescue attempt, they were able to open up a small hole and get him some food and water, but not be able to get him out of the hole. Well, not long after that, there was a bit of a cave-in, and he was trapped on the other side. He died a few days before the rescue tunnel actually reached him. Died of dehydration and starvation. This one has a darker tone, but it is powerful. Kentucky's cave country was once so competitive that people were fighting to discover and promote caves for tourism money, and Collins became the tragic face of the era. It's just so sad that he died before the rescuers got to him. I mean, they got him some water and they got him some food, in the beginning, and then they had the cave-in. I guess I don't know, they probably didn't realize that. I'm sure they didn't realize that there could be a cave-in. They weren't thinking that way, so they didn't give him a bunch of supplies. They just gave him what he needed right then. So dehydration and hunger killed him. Rabbit Hash, Kentucky, the Kentucky town run by a dog. Rabbit Hash, Kentucky sounds like something you'd actually order at a diner after losing a bet, but it's a real place in Boone County along the Ohio River. It has an old general store, a tiny town feel, and one of the strangest political traditions in America. They elect dogs as mayors. The first dog mayor was named Goofy, and that was in 1998. Since then, Rabbit Hash has had several canine mayors, including Lucy Liu, Benneth Paltrow, Wilbur Beast, and now Boone, a blue tick coonhound elected into office just recently. Now, with a dog mayor, Rabbit Hash may have the most honest political system in the country. The mayor may sniff visitors, chase squirrels, and nap during meetings. But at least, nobody expects a campaign promise about infrastructure to come through. I called their general store to make sure that, Boone was the mayor and all that, and the nice lady on there was kind enough to tell me what he was. She gave me directions to his owner's or his human's Facebook page, and I checked out Boone. He's a very active guy. He gets around. I don't know if this is a fake picture, but it looks like he went to the Kentucky Derby. Sure, it's fake, but still, Boone gets around. He likes to swim. He's a good-looking dog. Nice boy. But while I called and I said, hey, this is going to sound like a strange question. My name's Briggs. I'm a YouTube creator, and I have some questions about your dog mayor. Shaw, can I put you on hold? She just sets down the phone because I guess they don't have a hold button, and some customer was there, and he goes, oh, no, you could finish that. She goes, no, it's just some YouTuber. She was nice afterwards, but the way she said, I'm sure they get calls all the time. But anyway, she was nice. But I heard that. I'm all, ooh, I hope she's not irritated. Waverly Hills Sanatorium, Kentucky's creepy concrete lung. Waverly Hills in Louisville was a tuberculosis sanatorium that opened in 1910 and later became one of the most famous haunted locations in America. The real history of this place is grim enough before you even get into the whole ghost story thing. It treated TB patients back when the disease was terrifying, deadly, and about as welcoming as a coffee and roommate in a one-bedroom apartment. It closed as a TB hospital in 1961 after antibiotics changed treatment needs. Today, it's a paranormal tour heavyweight, the kind of place where every hallway looks like it has been waiting 70 years to whisper your name and scare the piss right out of you. Now, I was looking at this on the map. How'd you like to be the guy that owns the house right here and it's in your backyard? It's like you have people over for a barbecue. You go, what's going on in the woods back here? He's like, oh, that's a haunted sanatorium. Go over and check it out. Yeah, I don't know about hospitals are just weird when they're abandoned, You just don't want to walk around in there. I don't know why. It's like There's just been too many movies, video games, TV shows about scary old hospitals, like mental patients got left behind and they're wandering the hallways in their, whatever that is, that little nightgown thing they wear. That'll scare you straight anytime. So it's a magnet for those type of people that think something weird's going on there. I mean, something weird used to go on there, but now it's just a building sitting there. But, of course, the paranormal people have proof. While I was researching this, I noticed there's probably 30 videos about people going there looking for, paranormal activity. Kentucky Stonehenge, Munfordville's backyard druid starter kit. Because apparently, one mysterious rock circle in England wasn't enough. It was built by a man named Chester Fryer using rocks and boulders he collected from a nearby valley, which is both impressive and slightly concerning if you're a chiropractor. There are some other Stonehenge replicas across the country, and they sometimes use cement to create the slabs. Not Chester. You won't catch him 3D printing some slabs. This man hauled them up from a valley. Now, the real Stonehenge is over 5,000 years old. Kentucky's is around 20. Bit of a difference, but it's still kind of cool. He's got some other rock formations out there, and I watched some videos, and, nobody said he was a bad man or anything like that, but they're all, he's creative, and his creative this, and, they just wanted to go, he's a weird bird, but these are cool. I don't know. I'm sure he's an artist. What do you expect? It's the kind of attraction that makes you say, who built this? And the answer is basically a man with rocks, time, and a dream that confused his neighbors. Kentucky tourism highlights this as one of the state's quirky attraction. The city's website leans into it pretty well too. Apple Valley Hillbilly Garden and Toyland. Yard sailing fever dream. This place on I-24 in Marshall County is an outdoor folk art attraction, toy museum, and roadside fever dream rolled into one. Kentucky Tourism describes it as a former gas station, diner, and general store turned eclectic art and pop culture museum with more than 3,000 toys on display. It looks like a museum curated by a man who walked into a flea market, blacked out, and then woke up with a business plan. It's weird, funny, harmless, and visual. Seems like every place has got some kind of roadside museum. You always see it someplace. Drive down the road and there's I saw the Horseshoe Museum one time driving through Texas. I think it was Texas. I remember it said, next exit, Horseshoe Museum. So that's got to be a lucky place. Didn't go see it, but sounded kind of neat. Mammoth Cave, America's underground mega maze. Mammoth Cave is the world's largest known cave system, and it gives Kentucky a massive underground world beneath its beautiful rolling hills. The cave system itself is not weird in a cheap roadside way. It's weird in a how much of our planet is actually hiding under our feet kind of way. Kentucky has so many caves that the ground feels less like land and more like Swiss cheese with property taxes. The Corvette Museum sinkhole. In 2014, a sinkhole opened under the National Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and swallowed 8 Corvettes. Not 1 or 2, 8. The museum says the hole was about 40 feet wide, 60 feet long, and about 30 feet deep. This is one of those Kentucky stories that feel fake until you realize, this is cave country like we've already discussed. This is a museum full of America's shiny midlife crisis rocket cars, and it got eaten by the floor. Somewhere a geological formation said, nice cars. Be a shame if limestone happened. I think this one is just great. Corvette Museum's pretty cool. I've never thought about buying a Corvette. I do think they're very interesting cars. I am that age where I should be getting a midlife crisis car. I'm not going to, but if I was going to, it'd be a Corvette. Not one of those newer ones. I like the older ones, like the 1970 ones. But yeah, they got swallowed up. They pulled them out eventually. What I think they should have done is left them there and put glass over the hole in the floor so you could look at them through there. Because that's a neat little story that sinkhole just opened up underneath this museum and took out some cars. The Blue People of Kentucky. The Fugates, often called the Blue People of Kentucky, were a family in eastern Kentucky known for a genetic condition called methylglobinaemia, I believe. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. That disease or that condition gives your skin a blue appearance. Anyway, this family lived around the Troublesome Creek area. That's the name of the place, not just, it was a troublesome area. No, it's called Troublesome Creek. And the story became one of the strangest medical history tales tied to Appalachia. Now, I'm going to handle this one carefully and respectfully. I don't want to roast this family. I'm going to roast the fact that Kentucky has a history of some really strange people in the mountains. And it sounds like folklore, but actually it has a medical explanation. It also has a bit of inbreeding. That's right, I guess Mom and Dad Fugate were kissing cousins that went all the way, apparently, at least 7 times. This was the early 1800s, and there weren't many options in this neck of the woods. The train didn't make it out this way, and not many roads did either. So your options were really limited. One of the guys in his family was married to his aunt, and there's all kinds of cousins marrying each other, and it wasn't, like a family tradition. It's just that's what you had. That's all you had to choose from. It's like being on an island someplace. It's weird, and especially if you're sitting someplace in a, modern culture and you're like, there's something wrong with these people. There was, but yeah, things like that don't happen as much as they used to. But this family, this condition was passed down, and basically it's the blood doesn't move around the body as fast, so it kind of gives the skin a blue tint. Now, 3 or 4 of the kids in this family had the same condition as the parents did. They got it passed down. The other ones were okay. One of them apparently was extremely blue, and she was blue, and if you looked at the veins, veins are a little different color. Well, those look kind of like brown on her, so just weird. Weird. Whiskey fungus. Kentucky's bourbon doesn't just age in barrels. It can also help feed a black fungus known as Boudonia, I believe, sometimes called whiskey fungus, which grows near distilleries and aging warehouses because of the ethanol vapors. It can coat buildings, cars, trees, and any real nearby surface in a dark film. This one is sort of funny because bourbon is marketed as smooth, classy, handcrafted magic, and then the neighborhood is like, hey, cool, why does my house look like Batman sneezed on it? Now, is this one a big deal? Not really. People don't get terribly upset about it, but it is kind of strange. All right, let's finish this one off. The Kentucky Meat Shower, 1876. Most states get rain. Kentucky got meat, not metaphorical meat, not a barbecue festival, actual chunks of meat allegedly falling from the sky like God's refrigerator lost power. On March 3rd, 1876, in Bath County, Kentucky, chunks of what appeared to be red meat reportedly fell from the sky over roughly 100 by 50 yard area. The cause was never nailed down, though one popular explanation is that vultures may have regurgitated in mid-flight, which somehow makes the story, both believable and disgusting at the same time. This was the thing that it's been written about many times, and I read a couple different articles about it, but they actually said the meat was falling out of the sky. Now, if it was the vultures, I think if you're watching it happen, you look up and you see that, you'd get it, but they said it wasn't normal meat, so who knows? Now, by the time people were done investigating it, the explanation somehow got worse, because when the best theory is vulture vomit, your state has officially left reality. I like that one. It's kind of gross and just kind of weird. All right, that's the end of this episode. Tell me what you thought in the comments section. I'd love to do more of these. If you liked it, let me know. If you want to see something else in it, let me know. For the next one, I should say. Let me know which state, city, town, country we should do one on. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.